Hey guys, welcome back out to the garage. Hope everybody's doing good out there. Today I'm just going to do a little talking, okay, about a couple of different engines, which are very similar to each other, okay. It's the 335 series tall deck Ford, okay. It's the 351M 400. The reason why I want to talk about this today is a couple of reasons. I've got I'm going to be building a 400, which would be a 414 for my 69 Mustang. And so I want to do that. It's going to be a driver, not a race car. It's going to be a driver and a long distance driving. Okay, I want to drive far places, let's put it that way. And also I'm building a 351M as a test mule. Okay, so I'm going to start off building it just like a factory rebuild, or just like if you was to take your stock 351M and tear it down and then have it rebuilt with the rebuilder's kit and everything. So it's going to start off like that, but I'm going to show some little things you can do just to get a little extra out of it. Okay, then I'm going to redo it, and we're going to keep doing different things through a whole period of time. Okay, and to show it things you can do to make more power, but I'm keeping the 3.5 inch stroke the whole time. Okay, and that way I can kind of show how you can actually get some good power out of these 351Ms. Okay, so that's two of the projects right there I'll be doing. But what I want to talk about mainly is I'm on a few sites, okay, and forums or whatever that are for the 351M 400. And there's a lot of guys on there that want to rebuild their 351M and basically just maybe get a little more out of it. They got a budget. We all have budgets, you know. They're not after nothing crazy. It's just a driver. They just figure since they have to rebuild it, if they can get a few more horsepower out of it, you know, that'd be great. You know, just like a little upgrade. Well, with that said, a lot of people say put a 400 crank in it, okay, which I'll explain why that's so simple, but that's what people say. Just put a 400 crank in it, buy the pistons, and you're done. It's really no extra cost, or if you're buying the pistons anyway, might as well get 400 pistons. You're grinding the crank for your 351M, you know, it's the same money to grind a 400. But here's what people leave out, okay? So basically the 351M and the 400 are same deck height, same connecting rods, okay? Same, just basically it looks identical from the outside. You would think it's the same, you know, as one. So, but what Ford did was they took the 400 and they basically de-stroked it to a 3.5 inch stroke from a 4 inch stroke, okay, but it left the 4 inch bore. So now that made that a 351, and then of course you got your 400. So basically it's the same rods, all that's the same. So you just change the crank and the piston, because the piston has a different pin height now. Now that you went to a longer stroke with the same rod, they had to change the pin height because it could still fit in the block, because both blocks have the same deck height, okay? So, and so a lot of people say, oh, it's the best thing you could do is put a 400 in it. You get 49 more cubic inches or whatever the cubic inches may be after you bore and do however you're going to do it. So, basically, that's what most people say to do. And they make it sound very simple, okay? Which it is simple, but it may not be simple on your budget, because if you have a little small budget, so you want to rebuild your 351M, but you're kind of keeping it to where you don't spend too much, throwing in a 400 crank actually costs more than what people are telling you. Because I read a lot of these comments and stuff, and it's just like, yeah, you know, just put it in a 400 crank. It doesn't cost any extra, or put in a 400 crank, you know, thank me later. Put in a 400 crank and get the pistons from whoever, and and you got to get pistons anyway for the 351M, so it's really no extra. Okay, that all sounds good, but here's what I want to talk about. The 400 basically is a 4-inch stroke. So if you weigh the crank since I do balancing, I can kind of vouch for this. If you weigh the crank, okay, and weigh a 351M crank and get like an average, say you weigh several, the 400 is like just over 1,800 grams, okay? That's 4 pounds heavier. So throughout the whole crank. So the crank is heavier, okay? And I got my little notes right here. And the rods, I went ahead and weighed several rods, 400 rods and 351M rods that came out of an M, okay? But they're basically the same date code and they're basically the same rod. But from the factory, those rods weighed anywhere from 12 to 18 grams of difference, okay? They varied, okay? Because they don't perfectly weigh these things at the factory, okay? There's a given or whatever. So now the pistons in an M are real tall because it's got a shorter stroke but the same rod, so they had to make the pin height taller, okay? So that way it can get to the cylinder, and the 400 is shorter. Well, a full dress factory 351M and a 400 piston is about 30 grams difference, okay? So we got 30 grams there that's different. And the pistons, of course, is reciprocating, okay? It's not rotating. So you got a little bit of give there. And the rods, like I say, 12 to 18 grams. Then you got the crank over 1,800, just over 1,800 grams average. Okay, so if you figure all that up, okay, now the 400 being a heavier rotated assembly, as far as that part goes, runs a different balancer, a different damper, okay? It's bigger, all right? Maybe not so much in the diameter, let's say, but it's heavier, it's thicker because of the more mass. Okay, well, nobody tells you to change the damper. They just say throw the crank in it, get a new set of pistons, you're good to go. Well, a 351M is a lot thinner, okay? It's lighter, it's thinner, it doesn't need as much on the snout there because of the mass. So let's talk money. So let's say you have a 351M and you're just wanting to rebuild it, and you have a budget, okay? You don't want to really go over or nothing, and these guys are trying to talk you into a 400 crank. So keep in mind, if you don't have a 400 crank, and if you don't luck out and somebody wants to just give you one, or they were going to junk one that was still good, you can have it turned. Those cranks average from 200 to 400 plus. I've seen them for sale, okay? 200 to 400. So right there, automatically, just to do the crank, you're somewhere between 200 and 400 in your budget. Now, to do it correctly, you want that 400 balancer. You don't have it. You have the M balancer. So now you need to get one of those, used or new. You can be anywhere from 50 to 150, okay, for the balancer. Now, if you're gonna do that, because now you're buying these new pistons that are modern flat tops, maybe zero deck, some people call them, because they changed the pin height and all that. Those grams are completely different than these factory grams. So now if you think about it, you got a 400 crank, and then so now you're gonna buy the 400 damper, and now you got these pistons. You're best off to balance it. To do this thing right, you would need to balance it, okay? And balancing can be anywhere. Again, I've searched around, just kind of seen, it can be anywhere from like $250 to $500. I mean, you probably won't need Mallory, but if you do, it'll just be outrageous. But if you're keeping it 28 ounce external, and you just want to a nice balanced job, it's going to be somewhere between, I like to say, around 250 minimum, maybe 225 to up. Okay, I've seen them as high as $450, $500. Some of these companies are charging for balancing without Mallory. Okay, so right there, let's just kind of figure that out. You're probably 600 plus right now, doing it the correct way. All right, so I just kind of want to throw that out. And some guys say, they might say, well, I didn't balance mine. I used my 351M damper and stuff, and I don't have no problems. Well, you may not feel it while you're driving it. Maybe won't feel it. It might be just a slight, because remember, the factory does not balance these things 99, 100%. You know what I mean? They're way balanced under that. Okay, so but your engine probably feels it. And then I see posts where guys say, hey, I have a fairly decently a new rebuild and stuff, but I've already lost oil pressure, or I went ahead and checked it out because I was getting kind of nervous, and look at the bearings, they don't look good. Okay, and then people say, oh, did you mic your crank? Did you do it with a real tool, or did you use plastic gauge? Or take it back to your machine shop and tell them to regrind it and do it right this time, and this and that. When all that time, after you kind of scam through all that, you'll see that some of those guys were 351M damper, but they have a 400 crank they put in, and pistons because that was the top. And so that slowly took its toll, was slowly eating away on the, wiping the bearings out, period. That's just what it was. Because since you went to not a factory piston, but the other piston, the whole grams were different. And then the rods, again, are 12 to 18 grams average off. Okay, now think about it. And then you're putting a small balancer on there. And your engine kind of felt like, hey, there's something not going jiving right here. So I just want to kind of stress that, okay, because I really like these M engines and the 400. And, all the 335 series I'm into, okay? And I've been doing them for over 40 years now. But I'm at the point now, I keep seeing all this stuff, and I'm thinking, why are people saying this without finishing what they're saying? Yes, do that. It's the best power you can get, cheap power, but you are going to have to spend to get a crank if you don't, or to get it and to get the correct damper if you don't have it. And it'd be wise to balance it since you are changing pistons as well, okay? Because of all these weights. Now think about all these different grams and weights I just worded off. Now wouldn't you feel better if you went ahead and spun this thing on a machine and then got it pretty close to, basically full balance job out of it, okay? So you're looking to do it right. I'm gonna say you're looking at 600 plus, okay? Dollars. It's not just throw it in and buy pistons like people say. And so that's just something I wanted to bring up, because it's just me. I'm always out to help everybody, and I read this stuff and I want to comment to all those people, but at the same time, I just bite my tongue and just hope, they stick with their original plan and you could take a 351M, raise the compression just a little bit, put a straight up timing chain in it, throw a performer or, an aluminum intake with a 600 vacuum secondary is all you really need. No reason to be bigger. And that thing will automatically make more power. Okay, it's going to have more power, and right there you're spending money on your budget. But if you spent that $600 and then bought the a little more camshaft or the carburetor and intake, then now look at your budget, it's even bigger. So I'm kind of I don't know how to say it correctly, but I don't think you need to always just throw that 400 crank in there and pay that extra money if you're just wanting to do some upgrades on your 351M, okay? And because it's just a daily, like you say, or it's just a fun truck or car. So that'd be the way I would do it myself, and that's the way I will always show it to be done the right way. And I'm surprised that some of people that tell you just throw it in. It's like, I feel like they should know better than that. They should tell you more detail what you can get into. I mean, you can actually leave that 351M damper with your 400 crank as long as you balance it with it. Okay, then it's okay. So if you don't, if so, you may save some money on the damper, but you're gonna want to go ahead and balance the machine or the rotating assembly for sure, since you did that. So yeah, you can save a little bit there, but you're still gonna be over $400 or $500. You know what I'm saying, or even more, depending on what they charge for the balancing. So you can go that route. Now, you may think, well, how come aftermarket sells dampers for 331 Cleveland, 331M, 400, the same one? Well, of course they're going to sell it that way. They'll all go on there. The pointers are the same, so that's all going to be the same. But it's not their fault if you didn't balance the engine, okay, with that new balancer. That's why if you're buying a new balancer for a 400 or a 351M, and you're just building this little stock kind of thing or whatever, that's why you specifically need to buy it for that. Because if you look at the balancers, there is a difference, okay, between the 400 and the M. So you would want to buy that one, okay? That way you're kind of going back to the way factory did it, even though you got a whole different piston that has a complete different grams than the factory piston did. I mean, there's a good chance you might get them close to the same grams, but usually the more modern pistons are either going to be several grams lighter. Okay, I don't really see them heavier, but they could be lighter. So that's kind of the deal there. And like I say, I'm going to be showing on that test mule, I'm going to be showing little things you can do, and then I'm going to keep the 2-barrel on it for several tests to show that 2-barrel can still, you know, give you 200 horse, 250 horse even. Okay, I'm going to show little things you can do at first, just to get a horsepower here, a horsepower there, a couple of here. That all adds up, you know. I mean, just like, you know, grind a little exhaust bumps off here, you know, polish the combustion chamber, change the valve angle. There's little things you can do that will actually help you and still be in your budget really good. So anyway, that was what my little talk was about today. Sorry about that, I got thirsty. But yeah, so it's all in the way you want to do it. Go the route you want to go. It may run a long time just by throwing that crank in there, but eventually you are going to knock those bearings out, I think. Okay, so I believe if you're gonna not balance the engine, but you're gonna put a 400 crank in it, then you need to get a 400 damper. Okay, and it'll help it out big time. Okay, so, and with this all said, I just thought I'd kind of throw in a little example. I don't know if you've seen these things sitting here. Basically, they're eggs. Okay, so what I did was kind of want to show you something. Let me see if I can. Yeah, well, I was going to blow this up, but yeah, let me put this like this. So this egg here, is the 351M with a 400 crank, okay? I'll just set it right here for the moment. Don't roll away. This egg here is the 351M with a 400 crank. There's a 351M with a 400 crank, but it's been balanced. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy first, which is just the M with the 400 crank, just like the guys tell you to do. And let's just go ahead and spin the rotated assembly. Okay, let's spin the rotated assembly. Is that in the camera? Okay, try this again. Okay, let me turn it upside down and try it. It tried, but then it fell. No. Okay, now we're going to take the 331M 400 balanced. Can't get this one to do it. If I flip it upside down, it tries, only because you probably figured out why. Okay, this is actually kind of fun. Look at that. Both of those are 331Ms balanced. This one's never going to make it. Whoa. Okay, one last time. Look at that. Look at that. So anyway, that was kind of cool. Oh, let me see. Oh yeah. I want to make sure I can get in the picture. All right, so anyway, that's kind of that's my little example. I balance engines and stuff, so this was a good example. And basically, we all know why it's doing it. This is not a boiled egg. These are boiled eggs. So the yolk is spinning around in here. That's why it will not spin. It falls right over. If you get the yolks in the right spot to spin for a second, then it falls over because the yolk is moving around, just like your 400 crank in a non-balanced, non-400 damper 351M. But these guys, they want to burn rubber. So anyway, that was my show and tell for today. So I am stressed if you guys are gonna make the swaps, pay for the balancing. I think it's the best thing for the money. All right. Plus, there's horsepower in balancing. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed that one. Until next time, you guys be safe out there. Thanks.